As far as music goes, I do have a question because, of course, I mess around with beats as well. I'm
Hmm.
trying to better my 808s, like make them sound like what you hear on the radio, which is pretty much everything.
Right, right.
That's what I've been trying to figure out lately.
Okay. Now, when you say better your 808s, do you mean as far as like how they are mixed in a song, or?
Like how they're hitting, because they're not hitting like they would on the radio. Because I know one of my friends, likes one of my beats. He's like, yeah, I wish the 808s were like thumping more or something like that. Like, I definitely understand that because I can tell it's not like radio worthy as far as the 808s go.
Right,
So
right.
I know there's something like the slides and stuff like that, but I don't know exactly where I should start.
Okay. So when you're dealing with trying to make sure 808s hit, it always starts with the mix. Um,
Okay.
and what I mean by that, let's break that down. So if you got pretty much a lot of stuff at the same volume, like say if like I got like say this red edge shaker is the 808, and let's say this gray shaker is like a snare, and then this black is like the melody, right?
Right.
And what happens is, depending on your mix, will determine if the 808 is hitting. Now, let's say the top of the screen is about how loud everything can get. Nothing can get louder in here, right?
Okay.
And so what happens is that what a lot of producers will do, they're creating, they're vibing, but everything's right here. Everything's right here, and this is as loud as it can get. Remember, this is your 808 right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're dealing with 808s as far as mixing, make sure that they hit, you want to mix in a way that turns, not necessarily turn this up, because you only got so far up you can go, but you want to turn other stuff down. Turn other stuff down. And what's that's going to do, that's going to keep your 808 at the top, right?
Okay.
Or in the case of, say, this is your snare, this is your 808, and you let your music be a little bit down. I know it's kind of a crazy thing, but this will be good for content.
But, yeah, that makes sense.
But your 808's here in the mix, your snare's here in the mix, and your music's down. So you want to focus on this, not necessarily turning up your 808s to make them hit harder. What you're hearing on the radio is a mix with other things being turned down.
Okay, so the 808 is at like say 100% volume. Everything else like 70, 60-ish.
Exactly.
Like
yeah, that's one way to look at it, but you got to be careful because you also have to keep in mind of vocals. If it's an instrumental, you don't have to worry about it so much. But when you got vocals involved, you have to be mindful of the 808. Now, another thing to pay attention to make sure that the 808 hits is the pitch of the 808s. And I know that there's an exception to every rule on this, right? So if that 808 is let's say this way from left to right is pitch, right?
Okay.
And then up and down is volume, right? This is the 808. So, but let's say that most people's speakers, let's say this is the pitch range of a speaker.
Right.
So what happens is if you make that 808 go too high, you're not gonna hear it. The speaker can only make it reproduce it here. If you go down here where it's too low, it seems cool. It sounds cool in your headphones, but the speaker can't hang with it.
Right.
It can't hang with it. So, and that's why you add a little bit of distortion to the 808, because that creates extra stuff that gets you back where it can produce the speaker can reproduce the sound.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So you got your speaker, you got your 808 right here, and you got this pitch range. This is your highest, this is your lowest. You got your volume up there, and there's like a sweet spot of where the 808 goes in your mix. Okay. You understand what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
And that can be done with experimenting. Of course, monitoring makes it challenging. I know having headphones that can reproduce those frequencies a little bit better will enable you to hear what's going on right there. And I got you covered on that, Danny. Don't worry about that. I can edit for you, man. We're good.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that that 808, that's a couple things. So we got volume compared to 808 compared to everything else in the mix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bringing other stuff down, and then also the pitch of the 808. And then what we also got is the level of distortion that can come from it. You understand what I'm saying? That's why they add saturation like the Camel Audio, or like in FL Studio, I think you got like the Blood Overdrive or something like that.
Yeah.
So you can add that in to do. Another good tool that I like is the is the what's this called? The Sublab.
Sublab, yeah, I heard of that. That's actually what I was gonna start messing around with. That plugin.
Yeah.
I see it all the time.
Yeah, Sublab is a great plugin because it does a lot of the dirty work for you as far as add distortion. And if you play a note too low, the plugin itself is going to move the note back up high again.
Oh wow! Okay.
For you, and it'll keep that sub in that range. In that range, the speakers can reproduce. You understand what I'm saying? So
kind of
that's
like the artificial intelligence that's coming into the plugins.
I wouldn't say it's artificial intelligence. It just limits the range. So if the note is going lower, dun, 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 if you go here, it's going to put it back up here again for you.
Okay.
And every time you go, it's going to put it back because it knows that you only have this type of pitch range for your 808.
Okay.
And again, 808s will represent as far as volume is concerned. So you got volume of the 808 compared to everything else, right?
Right.
Then you got the range as far as pitch is concerned. You understand what I'm saying? And so that's how that works right there. And that's what's very important to make sure that you are in good shape.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so hopefully that kind of helps with some ideas about how to make the 808 hit a little bit better.
Oh yeah. I've been kind of messing around with it, kind of using Ozone, like trying to work on mastering and mixing and stuff like that right now. So that's the realm I'm in right now, just kind of making beats, mastering, mixing them, kind of experimenting basically. Yeah,
Ozone is a great tool because you can kind of boost up that volume without clipping. You can kind of make it louder without distorting. So that's a great tool. Any other questions you got as far as like that's concerned with production or music or business or whatever?
I see you got some singles coming out. So when the next album coming out? That's what I want.
You know what? That's a good question, man. And I want to give you a realistic prediction. So I'll kind of give you a little background on me, right? So I'm in kind of like a time crunch. I got a good year to make this area work, right?
Right.
So what I'm trying to do is I'm more or less leaning on singles because I can get that out faster. Because when we talk about albums and I do these albums, right? But my problem with albums is that I spend a lot of time focusing on the perfection of it and the continuity between it. Right. But I think that albums are definitely still important, and I'm definitely interested in doing that. So I want to predict a fall release, a winter release, something like what Wind Chill was, or it could be another gift submitted kind of thing, in that theme. But in the meantime, I'm kind of hooking up singles to kind of keep building that catalog up because I don't want to spend this year not releasing anything. Right. you know, so that's sort of the secret with that, or at least that's kind of like my process with that. So if I were to give you a hard time, probably late fall, early winter.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, man.
As long as you're doing something with music, that's all that matters.
Yeah, man. I'm continuing to do it. I'm continuing to build and to learn the trade and to continue creating, and it's a grind. It's a grind, man. Yeah.
So how has this live streaming been going? Has that been kind of helping as far as a business aspect for you?
I think it has. Live streaming is still a growing thing. I definitely do have a good time live streaming.
Oh yeah.
The challenging part is kind of testing out different times to come on. It's fun, and what I try to do is, and I advise this for anybody live streaming, is to try to find ways to make it work double for you. So in my live streaming, I most of the time will do cookups and chats. So, but the beats that I make during the cookups are beats that I put to my beat catalog.
Okay.
So that way I kind of kill two birds with one stone, because if I just make beats to keep for myself, which some I do, some I'm like, I got to keep this one, but I try to do things to kind of multifaceted, and then communicating with the viewers is always really fun, man. Just talking, jamming, hearing what they have to say, connecting with the viewers. I think that's super dope, and it's really awesome.
Oh yeah. See how you basically kind of starting over and building a new fan base with the live stream. You get a lot of people coming in from different areas, people gifting, donating, stuff like that too. But yeah, I think live stream is always kind of a big factor as far as like a marketing type tool.
Yeah.
And then it's a good way to just connect with people and bounce ideas on people.
Yeah, and it's very important that I do that because, like I said, it's fun. It's pretty low maintenance. I mean, you're making content live on the spot, and I do connect with people, and it's fun, and I'm still learning of it. It's a process. It's not like it's not growing exponentially,
Right.
but I'm really fixing a new perspective on the live streaming and audience growth thing because YouTube is still a very challenging place to grow, especially for this niche. As for me, I've been on this platform for a while. My growth been slow, but it's still been growing, and
Right.
and so I'm learning to enjoy the process. But I think what gets people to the live streams is not necessarily the live stream itself, but the other content, the body of content you have on your channel.
Yep.
Because when they see you and they subscribe, then that leads to somebody possibly putting a notification set in so that they can hook it up like that. So that's sort of like kind of like how that works there.
That makes sense because that's where you get a lot of people like, oh yeah, it's a remake guy. Let me go into his live, ask him to remake this Michael Jackson beat that he already remade or something like that.
Yeah,
but it gets them there basically.
Yeah, and the MJ fans, man, I tell you, man, they will show up. They will show up. So it's good that I know I got that, at least that they will show up, and very passionate, and I'm passionate about it too, man. So I'm really appreciative of them and just fans of all music production in general, and even producers who come through, man. But I will tell you, the MJ fans, they are ride or die, hardcore, and it's good, man. I roll with that, man, and make it work.